think you've been very harsh, one woman to another? I mean, you've just used the phrase, she is not fit to be part of the royal family.
You could see she couldn't contain her anger, her fury, just the same.
King Charles has enlisted the help of the woke Archbishop of Canterbury to broker a deal between his warring sons.
You showed up because something about this story just won't let go of you and your right to lean in. Tonight, I'm talking directly to you about the visa firestorm around Prince Harry and the fresh heat Tom BOWER is throwing on it. I'm not here to waste a second of your time. I'm going to tell you what people claim, what's actually at stake, and why this saga keeps roaring back even when the headlines go quiet. By the time we wrap, you'll be able to tell your friends exactly what matters and what's noise. Quick check before we dive. Are you watching on TV or phone? Say TV or phone in the comments so I can tune future episodes to your screen. Size dot, let me set the scene so you're never confused again. A high-profile royal moves to the US, writes a best-selling memoir, and openly discusses past behavior that critics believe could tangle with immigration rules. Cue a public tug-of-war, privacy on one end, transparency on the other, and a global audience tugging the rope in the middle. Celebrity, politics, and law collide, and the sparks fly every single time. You felt it. The stories pop, vanish, then return louder. Tonight, we're done with the whiplash. I'm putting it in order calmly, clearly, and yes, dramatically, because that's the only way to survive a scandal that feeds on confusion. Here's the promise I'm making to you. No fluff, no dragging. Every minute, something new, something useful, or something you can use to win the next dinner table debate. If you're tired of breathless shouting with zero receipts, I'm your person. If you want the big picture and the smart details, stay put. And if you're the commenter who always types, get to the point, I see you, and I'm doing it right now. Now let's talk about the man making waves. Tom BOWER. You know the name. He's the author who rarely minces words about the royals and never leaves the tea lukewarm. When BOWER speaks, you can feel the internet sharpen its claws. He leans into hard questions. What was declared? What was approved? Who signed off? Did a celebrity get what an ordinary traveler would not? He doesn't mutter. He projects. That's why every time he sits down in a studio chair, your feed catches fire. But here's what you and I are going to do differently. Instead of getting lost in the volume, we're going to parse the content. What is BOWER actually pressing for? Clarity on status, clarity on process, and clarity on whether public statements square with private paperwork. That's the heart of it. And whether you adore him or roll your eyes at him, you can't deny he's turned a paperwork quarrel into a primetime conversation. If you want me to do a full point-by-point of BOWER's claims and a follow-up, type BOWER breakdown so I know you're serious. Pause and ask yourself, if a public figure writes about their life, does that open the door to public inspection of their private files? Some of you will say yes, public life means public scrutiny. Others will say absolutely not. Laws protect everyone, famous or not. Your answer to that question shapes how you see everything else. I want to hear it from you right now. Where do you land? Privacy or transparency?
Allegedly offering thousands to a shady private investigator. Even Baroness Lawrence, a respected public figure, was reported.
Now about the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, who likes to be on the front cover of magazines. She likes to be on TV.
Very interestingly, on the royal website, they removed the information that in 2016...
voices say on TV and what actually exists in official records. The reason this story never dies is because each of those lines can move independently. One day, the documents move. Another day, a pundit drops a fresh grenade. Another day, a legal expert adds nuance that nobody wants to read, but everyone should. I want you to imagine a table with 3 folders. Folder 1 is labeled Law. Folder 2 is labeled Records. Folder 3 is labeled Narrative. The shouting is usually about Folder 3. The anxiety lives in Folder 2. The answers mostly live in Folder 1. But to get from Folder 1 to Folder 3, you need to pick up Folder 2. Lost already? Not anymore. You have the map. If you're the note-taker in the family, jot this down. Law governs, records prove, narrative sells. When you feel overwhelmed, come back to that now. A quick reality check you'll appreciate. Many viewers think that if something sounds wrong, it must be illegal. That's not how law works. Laws are written with very specific triggers and very specific exceptions. Bureaucracies move slower than a headline, and privacy is a wall you can't kick down just because you're curious. The frustration you feel. Fair. The conclusions some people jump to. Not so fast. If you've ever had a moment where the truth was more boring than the rumor, but more important, that's this story in a nutshell. Before we go deeper, tell me this. Do you want me to build a simple on-screen flowchart next episode? Yes or no? A 1-minute visual that shows how the law, the records, and the narrative interact could save you 15 minutes of arguing with your cousin on Facebook. If enough of you say flowchart, I'll do it. Let's decode the rule book the way your best friend would over coffee. Immigration decisions don't hinge on vibes. They hinge on categories, definitions, and standards of proof. There are different ways a person can be found inadmissible, and they are not all created equal. A conviction is one thing. A formal legal admission to the essential elements of a specific offense is another. A present tense medical finding is something else entirely. Past behavior described in a story might be relevant, but it's not automatically decisive. Officers have to match facts to law. That's the job. Here's what a lot of audiences miss. Not every visa category is the same. Requirements vary. Discretion varies. One officer cannot promise what another officer will do in a different category under different facts. Add in waivers in certain situations, and you've got a decision tree, not a single switch. If you've ever tried to fix a leaky sink and discovered you needed 3 different tools for 3 different nuts, you already understand how this works. It's not sexy, but it's real. Let me give you a quick scenario drill so you can feel this in your bones. Scenario A, person writes a memoir, describes a wild youth. No convictions, no medical findings, and applies for a category that doesn't require digging into ancient history beyond standard questions. Result could be clean approval, entirely by the book. Scenario B, same person, different facts. Formal, precise admissions that meet legal elements or a recent medical issue that triggers concern. Result, more scrutiny, potentially a denial or a waiver process if available. Scenario C, facts unclear. Officer seeks supervisory review. Outcome depends on specifics most of us will never see. That's the law, not favoritism. If you want me to walk through 5 more scenarios next episode, write scenarios and I'll bring them. And before anyone shouts, "Gotcha!" remember this, paperwork is a conversation between an applicant and a government. It's confidential for reasons that protect everyone, yes, including you. If that frustrates you, good, it should. Democratic societies wrestle with how much privacy to protect and how much sunlight to demand. That tension is healthy even when it's maddening. This is where you feel the heat. Powerful commentators ask scorching questions. Outlets frame stories with words like bombshell and furor. Yes, I see the irony. Politicians love a headline that collapses complexity into outrage. Producers love a segment that outruns nuance. And social media loves certainty more than accuracy. Meanwhile, a real person famous, yes, but still, a person stands in the middle as a symbol for arguments much bigger than one traveler's file. Now pause. Ask yourself, when you watch a segment that confirms everything you already believed, do you trust it more or do you lean back and ask, what are they not saying? I train myself to ask that question every time. You can too. If someone asserts there was favoritism, the adult question is, what would prove it? If someone asserts there was none, the adult question is, what would disprove it? Grown-up media literacy is a superpower, and you're developing it in real time. There's another layer, here security. High-profile individuals attract attention, good and bad. Privacy decisions sometimes account for safety, not just embarrassment. That doesn't mean we surrender scrutiny. It means we don't bulldoze nuance because it takes longer to explain. If you want me to bring on an immigration attorney for a live Q&A no fluff, just answer Stipe Lawyer and tell me your top 2 questions. I'll bring them on and we'll do it properly. Last point in this section, and it's a big one. Public interest is not the same as public curiosity. Public interest is about how government acts, whether rules are applied fairly, and whether processes are abused. Curiosity is, I want to see the file. They overlap, but they are not the same. If you've ever had a medical concern and didn't want your boss reading your chart, you already understand why lines exist, even when the person is famous, even when the public is interested. Let's game out the next. Moves so you're not surprised when the news cycle flips again. Path 1. The slow burn. Nothing dramatic happens for a while. The story recedes until a new interview, a fresh court filing, or a high-profile event drags it back. In the downtime, the conversation matures. More experts weigh in. The audience, meaning you get savvier. By the time the next flare-up hits, you armed with the rulebook, and you don't get played by a headline. If you like this path, type calm path 2, the spotlight moment. A high-visibility trip, a border crossing, or a televised appearance throws fresh oxygen on old questions. People who ignored the story for months demand instant answers. Old clips circulate as if they're new. The temperature rises, the facts don't change. This is where patience wins the day. If you prefer a play-by-play analysis of those moments when they happen, type alerts so I know you want rapid updates. Path 3. The curveball. A surprising detail appears maybe procedural, maybe technical that doesn't prove anyone's worst fears, but does shift the conversation. The internet screams, aha, before actually reading anything. This is the path where channels like this earn their keep. We slow down, we read the detail, and we explain it in normal human language. If you're here for that, say deep dive and I'll know you want the long form. Now, how does it go sideways? It goes sideways when voices with the biggest microphones confuse what feels fair with what is lawful. It goes sideways when we treat a celebrity's paperwork as public entertainment, and forget there are rules that protect regular people too. It goes sideways when we use one figure to wage 10 unrelated political battles, and then wonder why truth never shows up to the fight. You're here because you're done being whipsawed. I'm with you. I'm going to throw a question at you that will start a fiery comment thread, but you can handle it. If the rules were applied strictly to every applicant, even when it felt harsh, would you accept that outcome for a public figure? Or do you want flexibility for everyone, including people you dislike? That's the integrity test. There isn't a wrong answer, there's only honesty. 7. Your royal jury MOANT. This is the part where I hand you the gavel. You've heard the loudest voices. Now you get to think like a juror. What would you need to see to accept the claim that special treatment happened? A direct admission from an official, a policy memo, a deviation documented on paper. Be specific, because the person who is specific will always out-argue the person who is only loud. Next. What would you need to see to accept the opposite, that everything was handled by the book? Clear statements from agencies, consistent language across documents, independent experts agreeing on the interpretation. Again, be specific. If your standard of proof changes based on whether you like the person in the headline, that's not analysis, that's fandom. We've all done it. The trick is to catch yourself doing it and choose better. Here's a tool you can use in every scandal, not just this one. Ask 3 questions in this exact order. 1. What do I know for certain? 2. What do I think I know that might actually be an assumption? 3. What would change my mind? It's simple, it's humbling, and it's devastatingly effective. If you try it tonight, tell me how your answer shifts. I read your comments. I quote you on air if you want your comment read at the top of the next episode. Start it with my verdict, and I'll scan for it, and a quick eye roll with me, please. There will be accounts clipping 5 seconds of this video and screaming that I admitted to something I didn't. That's the game. We're not playing it. You and I are building a smarter feed, 1 episode at a time. If you want that, hit subscribe now so the algorithm knows you're choosing clarity over chaos. 8. Final verdict, and what happens on Extelits, land this plane with exactly what you came for. A crisp, human-sized conclusion you can repeat without notes. The reason this story keeps returning is because 3 forces are wrestling in public. The law that measures facts by strict standards, the records that are private by design, and the narrative that thrives on certainty the law won't give. Into that gap walks Tom BOWER with a question mark shaped like a megaphone, and the world tunes in. That's the show. But you're not here just for the show, you're here for understanding. So here's what I think you'll appreciate most. It is completely normal for you to want answers. It is completely normal for the government to withhold private files. It is completely normal for a commentator to demand clarity and for supporters to demand privacy. Those truths can coexist even if they're uncomfortable together. The smart move, the move you're making by staying with MIS to learn the rules so that when the next headline hits, you don't get dragged into a certainty you can't defend. What happens next? One of three things, and we're ready for all of them. If nothing new emerges, we'll keep a calm watch, and I'll bring you compact updates, no fluff. If a new burst of attention hits, I'll be here with a same-day explicable that separates the headline from the heat. And if a genuine curveball shows up, something that actually changes the calculus, I'll fire up a long-form breakdown and walk you through, step by step, until you can explain it better than the pundit who tries to shout you down. Before you go, answer me this in the comments and be brutally honest. If a public figure's past statements clash with technical rules, do you want strict enforcement across the board? Or do you believe in case-by-case discretion if that means outcomes you don't like? Say strict or discretion and tell me why. Your answers shape how I cover the next chapter. You've been incredible tonight, thoughtful, patient, and sharp. If you want the next upload to include a simple visual map of how these decisions are actually made, type map. If you want a live Q&A with an attorney, type lawyer. If you want a focused segment on how public security considerations influence privacy decisions, type safety. And if you want me to go head-to-head with the biggest claims in a structured, timed debate format, drama out type debate. I'll leave you with this final thought, because it matters. Fairness isn't a feeling, it's a process. It's the process we use when we like the person in the headline, and the process we use when we don't. If we only want process for our friends and punishment for our enemies, then we don't want fairness, we want payback. You showed up tonight for fairness. Stay with me for the next chapter, and we'll keep doing what most feeds won't. We'll get smarter together. If you're still listening on TV, give me a thumbs up with your remote. If you're on your phone, double tap and drop a 5-word verdict so the comments explode and this episode reaches the viewers who are tired of being shouted at. I'm Megan, producer. This is Star Spotlight. Subscribe now so you don't miss the moment the story shifts. Good night and deal. See you in the next one.